Okay, so November is Entrepreneur Month, and the Saturday after Thanksgiving is Small Business Saturday, which is now. So that's why I wanted to talk to some fellow entrepreneurs. And today we're speaking to the owner of Aya. So, SaVonne, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your company?
Yes, I am SaVonne Anderson, and I'm the founder of Aya Paper Co. I started this company in 2019 because I was tired of walking down the greeting card aisle. I mumbled. I was tired of walking down the greeting card aisle and not finding anything that looked or sounded like me. And I am a graphic designer turned artist, so I knew that I was in a unique position where I could solve this, and that's what I decided to do. I am a Newark native, and I come from an entrepreneurial family, and my dad has been a full-time entrepreneur for many years. I have generations of my family that have had their own businesses. So I always say, like, this was in my blood, just becoming a business owner. And I really love running my own business. It's very challenging and hard, but I keep doing it because I love the freedom, and I also love to know that I'm making a direct impact on people through my work.
Okay, that's awesome. And I did we met prior at a Newark Tech Week, and then we met again at a recent event that took place, a local business, a local Black coffee shop. So when it comes to that, I know as entrepreneurs, sometimes getting out of your business to network, meet other entrepreneurs, meet other potential business partners, vendors, and things like that can be a little bit tricky. Can you talk about how you balance making time to, say, attend networking events or to go to other events around your local area?
Yes, I will say that I was not always someone who liked to go out and network and go to events, but the longer that I've been in this business, I've realized how important networking is to entrepreneurship and even just for personal development. So much of the progress that we make is not always about what you know, is who you know. And I used to think that that was like a really bad cliche piece of advice. But it's not. It just is really seasonal. And that's what I like to remember, that being out and about and going to all the events. I may not be able to do that all of the time. Like right now, December, I'm not going nowhere because I have to be at my work events. I have to be working. I can't be just, spending time networking with people. So it is something that I push myself to do when I can. But the way that I find balance is just realizing that I can't, it's not going to be a consistent schedule of things. So I really have to make sure that I'm figuring out what my priorities are and make sure that networking and being out in the world is a priority that I make when I have the time to. So I do, like, for example, North Tech Week, that was in May, I believe. And I was able to do that because May is usually a slower month. Like outside of Mother's Day and Father's Day, it's not too busy for us. So I was able to host that event and, create this environment for entrepreneurs. So that was really fun for me. Also in the summertime, I'm always going to events and things in the summer because for greeting card and gifting industry, people aren't really shopping and buying gifts as much. So that's the way that I find the balance, is just, being flexible. And if there is a month that goes by when I can't be out and about, then I just, it just is what it is. You have to go with the flow. And I think that that's part of entrepreneurship that I've learned to really appreciate, is that no 2 weeks or months really look the same. You just have to be really agile and figure out where your time is best spent.
Thank you for that. Being agile is definitely important. And because you're in a gifting industry, which has its season. So when it
Mm-hmm.
was coming to starting your business, how did you go about developing your business model? Because as you're mentioning, you have to balance and be flexible. And you're in the gifting industry, which you know, like that kind of centers around holidays, right? So how did you go about developing your business model to make sure that, you would it would be
Mm-hmm.
sustainable?
Right. So when I first started my company, I was very focused on creative things that were evergreen. So we launched in July. So like I just said, summer is like a slow month when people are not necessarily buying gifts. So all of our collect like the cards that we first released in that initial collection, it was every day, like just kind of like affirmation cards to send to a friend and thank you cards and birthday card. That was the only things that we did. So it wasn't really seasonally based because it was in the summer. And then we did our first holiday cards at the end of that year, but it just shifts so much. But throughout all of the years, the one thing that I've always prioritized is making sure that we have evergreen content. And that's the only way to really make it through the seasonality of the gifting industry. It's having a focus on adding new products, giving people new things in those slower seasons, and also birthdays. Like, people have birthdays all year round. So that is really the other area that we focus in on. So I think that if you have a gifting company, you could make it just around holidays. But at Aya Paper Co., we make great efforts, and I think that our customers really appreciate the fact that we create great products that you can use all year round, no matter what the celebration is, because we can always find something to celebrate.
Right. I think that's such a good point as well. Just having um kind of like a good strategy and making evergreen content. And because I'm in the social media space, I do the digital marketing,
Mm-hmm.
I do the events, like that evergreen content that you can reuse over time and maybe just tweak it here and there, is very important. So speaking in regards to evergreen content, how did you go about your marketing and branding? I've been to your website. I really love just the colorways, how the story
Thank
is
you.
told digitally, and even in person. I believe at Newark Tech Week you did some of like the insert cards that we used as
Mm-hmm.
well. So it all looks very intentional. And I know sometimes when it comes to gifting, depending on like the cards or what we're using, some people rush to the bottom of just like what's the cheapest thing I can buy. But
Yes.
but when you really want to be intentional, when you really want to show the work that you put into this and price it accordingly, because
Mm-hmm.
it takes time to come up with the cards and the words and the colorways and then put it on the website, so that way something
Right.
that you're going to get in your hand translates well
Exactly.
online. So how did you go about your marketing and your branding? Because I do think as entrepreneurs and startups, it is something that we may start later in the game. Should we start it earlier? So how did you figure that out for yourself?
Yeah. Well, I was in a unique position where I had a lot of background experience in marketing and branding. So I say now that like I'm a designer turned artist. So I went to school for new media and digital design. I studied marketing and communications, media studies, visual arts, all of those things. And then my first job, I worked at an art museum in the communications department. So that was a really unique experience where I got to work alongside artists and like working within the art world. But my job was to communicate that and to make sure that our brand was being visible and that people understood what the work was about, and that we were portraying our brand not just visually, but also like how do you portray your brand and experientially, and how do you create print materials and digital materials that making sure that it's all consistent. So doing all of that gave me a lot of like hands-on experience. And I also did freelance design and branding for other small businesses too. So I had a lot of experience with just doing it, so that when it was time to build my own brand, I did it all myself. So I still to this day update our website. I'm the only one who's ever done our website, coming up with,
Looks
our
great.
brand identity. Thank you. So I do know, like, if people who don't have that background, it is very hard to, develop it. So I feel very fortunate that I was looking at the brand from that perspective. And I also have a few, like, because I'm a designer, I have a nice group of like friends and peers who I can bounce ideas off of and get their feedback, because that's super important too. And most recently, when I was doing kind of an update of a brand refresh, I'll call it, like I got a new tagline, was working on adding a few new products, recrafting our brand story. When I was doing that, instead of just relying on my own experience, which I had done initially, the second time around, now 5 years into the brand, I decided to conduct customer research. And that's something that I think is really underrated, or like people just don't pay attention to that as much with small businesses. Like how important it is to like ask your customers what it is about your brand that they like. What are the reasons that they buy from you? Give them some potential tagline ideas, or like ask them how they perceive your brand. And that's what I did. I wrote out like a list of like 20 adjectives, and I asked them to check off like which one of these do you feel like is Aya Paper Co. Are we serious? Are we funny? Are we friendly? Are we, personable? Are we casual? There's so many different, ways that you can be described. And I thought that it was really important after, 5 years of being out in the world and like developing our brand to see how we're being perceived, what is landing most with our customers, what they love most about us, and letting that lead this next phase of our brand strategy. So yeah, I would definitely suggest people, and I wish I did that earlier on, honestly, because I learned a lot. I had to learn through experience the hard way of like, because some of the things that I wanted to do for the brand in year one, it wasn't really landing with customers. I was just doing what I wanted to do. And then I had to realize, like, okay, let me change this because this is what my customer likes. So that's the other interesting thing about being, an artist and a creative person, but also a business owner, is finding that balance between like what I just like and what appeals to me aesthetically versus what is going to land with my customers and what they want to see.
And I like that you mentioned and you're saying that it's something that you wish you did earlier, that you did later on. Because literally, my other question that I have is, what is something that you learned later on in your business journey that you wish you knew sooner? Because
Yep,
that's typically
that's
something that I ask
definitely.
entrepreneurs, because it all helps us in the end. Like, we can learn from each other's even mistakes or just late goings. And I think customer journey is something that's important, especially if you are a service business or CPG. But if you're dealing with actual customers, you need to ask them how they're doing. And I know sometimes, and how you're saying, you don't have to, you are kind of doing what you liked. And I think for me, it's also the same thing, because sometimes I do what I like, but is that something that my customer like? Or I don't tend to necessarily like surveys, but when I do them, there's some incentive, right?
Yeah.
Brands give you a discount, you become like a loyalty member, different things like that. So I do think, and I want the entrepreneurs to really take that. You have to do your customer journey. You have to hear from them. Um,
Yes.
so to tweak that a little bit, how did you go about learning your customer, and do you have any systems in place that help you with that?
Yes. I'm glad you asked that because what I was gonna say in response was actually just data. Like data is so important as a business owner, and that's something that I think it goes hand in hand with like learning the customer and just like me being able to make data informed decisions instead of just, personal desire informed decisions. So I look at like we use Shopify, so I look at our analytics all the time. I also am like that's one thing, but the where I get the most important data or the things that are most transformative, um, one of the places is in our events and markets where I get to introduce the brand to customers and talk to them in real time. That is so it's so helpful for me to just hear in real time and like see people's expressions, see what products people are drawn to. Like there's this huge table with all this stuff. What is the thing that people see and makes them walk over? What is the thing that when I'm telling them the brand story, when do their eyes get wide and excited? So that's another part of data that I think is super important. And because I have a product based business and we do events, it lends itself to that. But even if you don't have that type of brand, find other ways to, interact with your customers in real time to get those reactions and feedback. Because, most people, we don't have a good poker face. If you really like something, your
Right.
face is going to show it. So I really have found that to be helpful. So like the combination of the qualitative and just like talking to people, that data, but also like looking at raw numbers. Both of those things have really helped me to refine my strategy.
Awesome. So far we have the one takeaway is to be data informed. Data is your friend. Like we know
Mm-hmm.
content is king, but you
Yes.
need the data to inform that content. You want to make content that is evergreen. So evergreen, as you know, very self-explanatory. You need something that you can reuse over, repurpose content if you want to use that terminology as well. But you need
Mm-hmm.
something that you don't have to remake all the time. And then you want to know your customer journey if you're in a which most entrepreneurs might be, you're doing something in a service area or a product area. So you want to know what your customers like, what they don't like, and how they
Mm-hmm.
view you as your brand. And we segue a little bit as once again, November is Entrepreneur Month. It kicks off Small Business Saturday, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. And then we're in a very heavy shopping buy-in season for the next 30 something days, right? And maybe
Mhm.
even into February, right? Because you're going to have your Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah,
Right.
January 1st, all these festive holidays. So,
Right.
what does Aya have in store for the holiday season? And then the second part is how can us as customers and even entrepreneurs prepare for the kickoff of this buying season? Even though you
Yes.
might be a little late, but you're never too late. So if you haven't
Yeah.
planned anything just yet, you really might want to plan your holiday sales and things. But what does I
Yes.
have coming up for this holiday season, and how can other entrepreneurs tap in so they don't get left out?
Yes. So the big thing that I is doing this holiday season is we're doing our first kind of like a seasonal market. So we are
Nice,
going to be at the
congratulations.
Columbus Circle. Thank you. We're going to be at the Columbus Circle Holiday Market, which is a huge market, one of the three or four outdoor markets that happen in New York City for the holiday season. So the one that we're participating in runs from December 3rd to the 31st every single day. So this is it's a very expensive, very time and energy consuming opportunity. But if we think about all the things that I just mentioned in terms of like seasonality, acquiring customers, customer journey, what I've learned through the data that people love like people buy greeting cards and gifts in person. It's an in-person experience. Holiday season is the peak. I get so much data from talking to people. It's gonna pay off.
Right.
So this is really exciting for me because yeah, it's our first time doing something that's so long term, and I think it's a great case study for us to see what it might be like to have a permanent retail space. I think it'll be great for us to really truly capitalize off the holiday season buying patterns that we haven't necessarily had the means to do in the past, and really putting things in our own hands. I think in the past holiday seasons we've partnered with big retailers like Nordstrom, Macy's, Kohl's, for example. And this year, it's like it's us. You come directly to the source to get it. So it's really exciting for us to be embarking on this new journey. So if anybody's in New York, please come to the holiday market and find our booth. Um,
Awesome.
and in terms of what other business owners can do this holiday season, um, if you there's two things. One is if you have a product based business, find a market. There are so many. There's super local ones, larger ones. Like find the places and the people who are doing these markets, even if it's already announced. Ask if they have a spot. Find a way to get in front of people because people want to buy right now. So if you don't already have at least one event or market on your radar as a product based business, find one. And for service based businesses, I would say use this time as an opportunity to touch base with your clients and learn more about them. They may be busy in December, but maybe right at the top of January, you reach out as like a happy new year. Loved having you as a client last year. Can we set up a time for me to talk with you? And maybe you give them some incentive for a gift card or something and just ask them about their experience with your business. Or what you can also do, and something that we help a lot of companies do, is send out thank you or holiday cards to their clients. Get some greeting cards, probably from Aya Paper Co.
Exactly.
and write out some thank you notes to them and mail it to them. People don't get a lot of mail. So, and then when they do get mail, it's bills. So if people get a nice card from you with a handwritten note, it will be a very nice surprise, and that helps you to build that customer relationship. So those are the two things that I would say. Like you should either be capitalizing off of buying patterns and trying to make sales as much as you can, or be nurturing your relationships to make sure that during the holiday season, maybe you're not the one that's taking money out of their pocket, but you're actually reaching out to just connect with them.
That's awesome. And I think I love both. So we have the holiday market taking place at Columbus Circle from December 3rd through the 31st. So definitely check that out. And then we have, looking for ways to connect with your customers. And I do also like the idea of you sending out messages because you, as a business, you do need like a total marketing plan. And I know sometimes business owners are often doing it themselves, but as you're mentioning, like sending out email. So that's different than just posting on social media, right? So you have
Mm-hmm.
to get in touch with those customers. And as I said, I do that work. So sometimes when I'm working with clients, it's making sure like, hey, you need to be getting these email addresses from your customers. We need to have
Yes.
a database. So that way, when it is, yes, everyone knows that their inbox may be inundated. But sometimes, depending, you might notice who doesn't send you an email or who
People,
sends
oh
it to
my
you at
gosh,
a
it
different
has
time.
happened to me. People,
Right.
I've in these customer interviews, customers like, oh, I noticed that the emails were a little bit slower at the beginning of the year. And I was like, what? You notice? Like, you don't think, like you said, when people are invested in your brand, when they like it, they notice when they don't hear from you. So I'm glad that you mentioned it because I was shocked to hear that people were noticing when we were less active. So it definitely was like an incentive for me to be more consistent and to keep posting, even when you think no one is watching, because your loyal customers, the ones that matter the most, they are going to be paying attention.
For sure. And then just in closing, say, what is one thing that you've learned throughout this entrepreneurial process that you did not expect? And then the second to the second part of that is, what is something that you would share, like a tangible thing, like a product, a service that helps you as an entrepreneur? Because I know oftentimes people hear things that may be more inspirational, but if there was one
Mm-hmm.
system, one tool that you use that has helped you as an entrepreneur, what is it?
Yes, I'm all for like free or low cost tools that have big impact. And I mean, most people know about it, but a lot of people don't use it. Calendly is like, oh my gosh, I cannot sing its praise enough. And it's a black owned tech unicorn company. Like, come on.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. Get Calendly, set your calendar up on there. It saves so much time. We scheduled this with a Calendly.
Yep.
So, that's my number one tool that saves me so much time. I just send that link out and it just like it makes sure that I'm not scheduling things on times when I can't do them for the most part. So yeah, that's super helpful. And the other tool that I will say, if you're in e-commerce and you're not on Shopify, get on Shopify. It's just like it's the standard and it just scales with you and it's so flexible. So I would definitely do that. And my last tool would be Trello. I really like Trello because it's a free, pretty simple to use project management tool that I can invite team members to. I don't have to pay a lot of money. It's even free at some points if you don't really need to use more people. But using Trello is really helpful for me staying organized and communicating updates with my team. So those are like my top three tools for my business.
Awesome. And what is something that you learned that you want to share with fellow entrepreneurs? Like one thing that you learned that is just, it kind of maybe like gave you a little spark as an entrepreneur. Like you learned it so
Yeah,
far in these years.
that's a big question. There's so many, but the thing that's coming to my mind right now is that you have to ask for help. You have to be vocal about what it is that you need because people want to support you and they want to help, but they can't help you if they don't know what you need. Like I've been talking about, I feel like I said this to you, like I want to do more blogs and more podcasts, like, and then we're doing this, and that's
Right.
because I opened my mouth and said, this is something I want to do, like not even
Right.
expecting it.
That's true. Because I was saying the same thing to myself too. Like I have the blog for, and I'm just like, I just need to keep it going. And so even if we do
Yes.
this, we'll see how I end up uploading this, whether I just do the full video as is or just the audio. But we were saying the same thing, like say something
Yes,
because you don't know who is in alignment
exactly.
with you.
Exactly. So it's just that's the number one thing that like whether it's somebody who can point you in the right direction or they may be the one to give you the answer. Every big solution that I've got, every major milestone has been because I was brave and also vulnerable enough to say what it is that I need. Like a lot of times as business owners, I think we want to look like we have it all together or we have it figured out or we don't want to have like put yourself in a vulnerable position to say that you need something or you don't have this. But like I got my first investor because I was complaining, venting to an advisor that like I'm so stressed. I think I need more money to, run this thing. And they connected with someone. I was able to, find a new manufacturer for something that I needed because I was just saying like I was having issues with someone. So, even being able to get better payment terms, if like you don't have to accept net 30 all the time if you are willing to open your mouth and negotiate and get terms that will work for you and your business. So that's the most important thing I would say that I've learned that if you don't ask for what you need, you will not get it. So like say it
Yes.
loudly and to whoever will listen.
I love that. And even like how you're just this before we go is just you're saying asking for help and the point about net 30 because even for me and I know I've talked to other people too, we get stuck on like standard payments or like industry
Mhm.
standards and it's like, but wait, this is my business. I don't want to
Exactly.
get paid the 15th or 5 days before or 2 days after, especially if you are a startup or a smaller company, you need that
Exactly.
cash flow to keep going. Yes, maybe when you get bigger and you can do something for your loyal customers and you
Yep.
grandfather them in, but I had to learn that lesson too. Like, no, I need the payment up front. I
Exactly.
need it in the business account up front, so that way when it's time to get ripping and running, we don't have any hangups. When things like that. But
Exactly.
that's a good point too, because that also has been a point of contention. I know with some folks is just make your business work for you, and yes, there may be some
Yes.
industry
That's the
standards,
beauty of entrepreneurship. It's yours.
right?
You do what you need.
And
You
that's going to
follow
be how
the
we close it. This is entrepreneurship. It is yours. You do it
yes.
how it best fits for you. Like, yes, of course, some things are standard. You have to have a reputable way of payment. You have to provide service on time. But if you want to get paid in full before, do it. Just
Uh-huh.
have a contract, right? That's the
Yep.
standard, having a contract. But how it gets paid is fine.
Exactly.
That's all,
Exactly.
that's the key point. But I thank you so much. So once again,
Thank
make sure you
you.
check out Aya Paper. Go to, what's the website again for us?
It is ayapaper.co.
Okay, so to check it out. And once again, these next few months, it's support small businesses, support your local businesses as well.
Yes.
Support a woman-owned business, a Black-owned business, but really start circulating your dollar. There are a lot of resources out there for small businesses that have been coming out. So don't forget to do your part.